You're listening to iCannabisRadio.com.
All right, and welcome to In the Lab with Genifer. And I am so lucky to have Georgia Edson on today with me.
Hi, thank you.
Georgia owns the station, and without her, I wouldn't be able to do this lovely show. But we have something different today than we've done before. And a little background, there are a lot of stock or penny stocks, I guess, if you will. I don't know because I'm very uneducated when it comes to this, but that are available to trade, publicly traded companies that deal with marijuana. Of course, it's very exciting right now, and people across the country, if not the world, are looking to get in either by buying stocks or opening a company. And I have never been one to really understand the stock market.
I don't think a lot of people really understand the stock market. But
I would love to help out people that maybe want to get into the stock market with marijuana. And so a guy that has previously been on my show, Rob Hunt, who works for Grow Life, which is a publicly traded company, I asked him to come on the show. And it happens that their earnings just came out on Thursday, and he said he'd be happy to come on the show. But better yet...
And Grow Life is a grow supply company. So when we're talking about publicly traded companies, we're talking about companies that are ancillary to the marijuana business. We're not talking about companies that people aren't buying into a marijuana company. I think that's been some confusion,
right?
That they don't own 0.1% of a marijuana grow. That's
right, because since the stock exchange is federal, right? Is that why? Okay, so I'm so glad you clarified that. All these publicly traded is either IP of companies, correct? Mm-hmm. Intellectual property, or it is ancillary businesses like Grow Life. So what we're going to do is we're going to call Rob Hunt, who works for Grow Life, and also Sterling as well. But more other exciting is that we're having Alan Brochstein on, who is actually an analyst, a stock analyst. So he's going to go ahead and ask his questions as well. So let's get Rob on the phone first.
It's just so exciting that what we do and what we're passionate about is becoming so normal,
right?
That people are.
Hello, this is Rob.
Hi, Rob. It's Genifer with In the Lab with Genifer. We're going to go ahead and call Sterling right now, okay?
Sounds great.
You're live on the air.
Live on the air.
Hi, Georgia. Hi, Jen.
How are you?
Good.
I was just saying, while Chris calls Sterling, I was just saying that it's so exciting that our businesses that we're so passionate about are becoming so normal that the ancillary businesses and so forth are becoming publicly traded companies and becoming companies that people are interested in watching and investing in and those kinds of things. I mean, 20 years ago, we never would have imagined that that Genifer would be having the show today talking about this topic. It's so exciting.
Crazy.
And imagine 20 years from now, we'll be talking about publicly traded marijuana companies, like full on marijuana companies. It's very exciting. It's very exciting. So we're thrilled to have you part of the conversation in its very beginnings because you're making history right now.
Absolutely. Rob, why don't you talk a little bit about Grow Life right now while we're waiting?
Sure. Grow Life is based in Woodland Hills, California, with offices in Colorado, California, Maine, Massachusetts, and New Hampshire. Our core business has been the supply of growing supplies, cultivation supplies in the hydroponics and organics market, but we are now branching out into numerous other verticals.
Awesome. Okay, Sterling, it's Genifer, Georgia, and Rob Hunt live on the air right now. How are you?
Hi. Good. Hi, Genifer and Georgia, and nice to talk to you again, Rob.
Hey, Sterling.
Absolutely. We're now going to go ahead and call Alan. So that'll take a minute. So go ahead, Rob.
Okay, Sterling, they're just asking if I could describe Grow Life. I kind of gave the 10,000-foot view. Would you like to elaborate on it? So essentially,
Give us a little.
our core business is in hydroponics and organic supplies, but we're moving into new verticals, and maybe you want to elaborate on that as well.
Sure. Grow Life is quite diversified, Jen and Georgia, in terms of it expects over time to be really quite diversified in terms of our revenue base, and we've expanded, begun an expansion into a number of very different verticals that are all under the banner of legal cannabis, and fully in accord with Justice Department guidance. But the core company historically has been in products that we own and sell, brands that we own and sell, and stores that supply growers, dispensaries in locations across the country.
So can you give us a little history on Grow Life? How did it start? How long has it been around?
Grow Life's life as a public company began essentially in March of 2011.
Okay.
And at that time, the company's name was Phototron Holdings, because our core company that formed the base for what ultimately has become Grow Life is a company by the name of Phototron, which has had products marketed into the space for almost 25 years.
Wow.
Okay. And then, Rob, how did you get involved in Grow Life?
I got involved in Grow Life through a meeting where Sterling and I were brought together by another person, a third party. And the two of us sat down close to a year ago now and really talked about what our visions were respectively for each of our businesses, and tried to figure out whether or not we thought we'd be much stronger together. And the end result was that we did, and that we figured with the integration of the brands that I had, which at the time were Rocky Mountain Hydroponics and Evergreen Garden Center, and the brands that Sterling had between Stealth Grow and Phototron, Grenners.com, that the existing footprint that I had would very uniquely allow his footprint to gain what it was missing and vice versa.
Yeah.
So the two of us, over a period of about 4 months, really tried to hash out what this would look like, and what we came up with is what Grow Life currently is looking like, and now we're pretty well through the transitional process and really moving into an execution phase of the company.
Again, that's
go ahead.
That's an ongoing process that dance to get to know each other and understand our values and commitment to our industry that Rob and I went through earlier in this year, 2013, is one that we continue to do as we begin to expand the base of operations for Grow Life. As we meet other companies and evaluate some of these verticals that we are looking to expand into, a lot of it is about people.
Sure.
that are dedicated to building a business that is credible in a space that historically has had a bit of a shadow over it.
And
Rob and I saw very much eye to eye about the importance of regulatory compliance and transparency in our operations in a way that we thought we could join our teams and that we could well conceive of ways to bring other very capable, bright entrepreneurs into our space under the Grow Life name.
Okay. Well, the reason this is also interesting, and the reason I'm having you guys on, because I know a lot of people are very interested in trading and investing, and I am very. I mean, this is not my skill set. I'm science and math. So can I ask you just a couple of general questions overall about investing, and then we can move on to the more, I guess, the more important, I guess, for investors out there. But the first one is, what's the first thing you should do before investing in an MMJ stock?
Well, we can't, Jen, we can't be giving investors any kind of investment advice. That's not appropriate for the company. But
oh, okay.
But
I learned that.
But the first thing any investor should do, and really in any company, is to do as much due diligence as possible on the people who the management team, the vision of the company, its financials. There's a process that in our case, the company Grow Life, we are a fully reporting company, so almost everything that you might want to know, whether it is in an obviously positive light or something that we think we'd like to be able to do better on, it's all fully disclosed in the public record in filings with the SEC for Grow Life. So that the ability to do what I would call due diligence, to learn about your investment, is relatively easy for a company like Grow Life.
So can I take a step back, Sterling?
For many other companies in the space, a lot of the companies that have some role, incidental, or it may be their main focus in the MMJ space, are not fully reporting, but many of them compensate for that limitation by making as much information available as is possible. But it's learn. That's the answer.
Right.
Investors need to learn about the companies they're thinking about getting involved in, and we try to make that relatively easy for investors.
Thank you. I think that there's a question before the question that Jen asked, and part of it is, for our really novice listeners and for ourselves. So let's start with why go public? Why go from being a private entity to a public entity?
Rob, you may have something to add to this, but my quick and very heartfelt response is that it's really three things. First, and most importantly, the public status allows tens of thousands of individuals to participate in your company and your vision, and that's a very, very powerful thing. And the other very common advantage that's associated with public companies is, in contrast to private companies doing the same thing, is public companies tend to have much greater access to capital for expansion, and that is of great significance when, as Grow Life is, we're confronted with a market opportunity that is exponentially expanding. So the ability to have more capital to do more at the same time and expand the enterprise aggressively is enhanced as one of the core advantages of a public company.
Okay, well let's go with another question. What is the Grow Life expansion? Okay, hold on a second. Maybe we should call Alan and have him join the conversation now. I just kind of wanted to talk to you guys originally. What do you guys think? Should we go ahead and call Alan now?
Yeah, let's get Alan on.
Okay, great. Before I start,
I've been talking too much. Why don't you handle question on expansion, and I'll rest for a second.
Sure.
Don't rest, Sterling. You got an hour.
I'll also add to the question that was just answered. And one of the things that's really unique about being a publicly traded company is allowing your investors to have an ROI that they can realize a lot sooner than they can with a private company.
Return on investment.
Sure.
That's correct.
Yeah. You got to talk English.
Alan?
Sorry, Georgia.
Thanks.
Hi, Alan. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm very excited to be on this today. I'm a big fan of yours. I've learned a lot from you and your show over the last few months, and really happy to be here with the guys at Grow Life. And it's nice to meet you, Georgia.
Thank you. So nice to have you on. I appreciate it, Alan.
Yeah, Ellen, thank you so much. Well, before we started to hit Grow Live with some questions, we wanted to get you on the line. So would you like to?
I've been listening too. So
oh, you have? Good.
You're doing a great job. And
I don't feel like it.
I was going to say, I felt like you were going to come on and test our stock knowledge, and Jen and I have both been sweating bullets over here.
I want to say something because you guys aren't alone. It's such an exciting time, and so many people are in the exact same position as you are, Jen. I didn't hear your position, George, about knowing about stocks, but
yeah, it's the same.
A lot of people know a lot about cannabis. They're very excited about cannabis, but they don't necessarily know anything about stocks. And I started a service, as I was telling you, Jen, just a couple months ago, and you'd be amazed at how many people are out there that they're trying to navigate some really tough waters. And I think, as I mentioned before, Grow Life is probably one of the easier ones for people to get their hands around, and we'll get more into that later. But there's some other ones out there. It's downright scary. I'm not going to name names necessarily, but we can talk about practices.
Well, yeah, and I'd like to do that because it is scary.
You'd like to name names, or you'd like to?
No. Oh my God, no!
I was like, this is going in a totally different direction.
I would like to name names, but there are already people with lasers pointing at my head already. So let's not get ahead of ourselves. But no, I just believe that for somebody that is outside this industry, they have no idea. They have no idea. So I just want to give those people a little bit of an idea. They listen to my show and I talk to people all the time and they always ask me questions and I'd like to answer them, but I can't because I just don't have an educated answer. So that's what I brought you guys on to contend with today. So
everyone wants to talk about microbiology, talk to Jen. If you want to talk about legal, talk to the Edsons.
No, talk to me about puppies. That's what we can talk to my husband about law. You can talk to me about puppies and
running
and children and
kids.
Yeah.
If you want to talk about kids, do not talk to me.
I don't know, but Jen
I'm allergic to them.
Jen lets me, not mine.
I'm just kidding.
Okay. So can I just want to interject for a second and kind of do a little bit.
What, Sterling? I can't.
What's one aspect of the public companies, more from an investor standpoint than from a company standpoint, but it affects both of us, is that in the public company world, were we running the same business privately versus as a public company? In general, it is likely that the public company of Grow Life would end up with a much higher valuation because in the public company valuation world, it tends to be looking forward as opposed to backwards, which is particularly interesting and important in a market such as legal cannabis, which is undergoing so many radical legislative changes and changes in terms of public acceptance and changes in terms of use patterns with the acceptance of medical programs in so many different states. So we end up with a very large number of investors who are able to the extent Grow Life can execute effectively on its business plan, can participate in forward valuations that are enhanced by our ability to have access to a great deal more capital. All very good things.
Got it. And so what are your, speaking about that, what are your expansion plans? Maybe Rob could take this one.
Jump in,
sure.
Please.
Yeah, we expansion plans, it's on a multiple level this time. For a long time, our expansion plans were specifically based in trying to open up new stores and trying to feed new products through those stores that were ones that hadn't been introduced to the market or that were very popular in the market that we could move through on a way that no one else was doing from an inventory management standpoint, creating clusters of stores in different regions and making sure that we were able to operate as leanly as possible while still having the largest diversification of products to get to the customers. Now, in the last 3 or 4 months, a few things have come our way that have allowed us to expand into new verticals that have really changed the focus, not the core focus. Grow Life is still fundamentally a store that's supplying the larger scale cultivators, but it's a question of how we supply them. Do we supply them as just a group that gives them the tools they need to produce medicine, or do we give them the tools they need also to finance producing medicine, or to stay in compliance with different regulatory rules and different regulatory systems?
Wait a second. Did you say finance?
Oh, we did say finance. Yeah.
Wait a second. Okay, even I know what finance means.
Right.
So,
for instance, if you wanted to build out a new large cultivation area, especially when you're talking about Amendment 64 being passed in Colorado,
sure.
There's a lot of new large cultivation that's needed to deal with the demand.
Yes.
Then what you're talking about is people that are going to need to add 400 lamps or 500 lamps to their operation, and that's, as you guys both know, a very costly proposition. So being able to do that in a way that we can actually get in there and help them out with the banking needs that they can't get through traditional funding sources, we're creating ways to allow them to do that are also going to allow for what's considered to be a requirements contract in legal terms, which means everything that they need for that grow, we will supply during the length of the loan. And it's a way for us to lock up customers in the long term over a 5.5, 6 year period, where not only are we acting as their bank, but we're also acting as their supplier. It's a very dynamic play.
No, that is incredible. Because I can tell you right now, of course, everyone thinks that everybody in the marijuana business has a money tree in their backyard, and actually they don't. And so this is huge.
It's empty. Yeah.
And if they did, it's empty. Yeah. This is huge. I mean, I can't tell you how many people I talk to every day that are like, well, Jennifer, how do you, where are you getting your loans or leases and everything? I mean, that's incredible. So, and you're going to get your return because you just need to set up the lights and have the plants grow, and there you go. So,
if you're dealing with a good operator, that's true.
Well, yeah.
We're obviously very careful on a due diligence process on our end to make sure that the people that we're giving financing to are well-qualified individuals and well-qualified entities. If we're not careful of that, then just like any other institution, you need to make sure that you have a threshold level of comfort with the people you're doing business with to make sure that they're good operators. Now, having said that, we have a track record of tons of dispensaries going back 4 and 5 years now, where we know which ones have paid their bills, we know which ones are expanding, we know which ones have the good reputation. And when they come to us and say, hey, we'd really like to expand, but we don't want to put all of our money in play for one reason or another, the main one being that 280E tax regulations, they are still sidelining a ton of capital on the side of the dispensaries. It gives us an opportunity to do something for them that traditional funding sources aren't available, and it solves multiple problems on so many levels.
Yeah, definitely. Well, let's move on now. What do you fear in this industry as it legitimizes itself? Is there anything you guys fear out there?
I think the first thing to take away, Jen, is that we feel this industry is legitimate now, and I think you guys feel the same way. I mean, for the first time, I think we're all looking around going, wow, we have an industry here. This is real. And it's really exciting. I think a lot of the people that 4 or 5 years ago, when they were calling George's husband going, help, I need legal advice, how do I set up this entity, are now feeling very insulated that as long as they remain within the guidelines of Colorado and the guidelines of what Justice announced on August 29th, that we have the opportunity to move forward with an industry that's not legitimizing anymore. Now it's just expanding. And if I fear anything, it's that someone tries to change the tide of that. I don't see it happening. I think that we're in a very, very unique period of growth right now that I don't see the genie being put back in the bottle. And I'm not sure if Sterling wants to expand on that at all.
Yeah, I think as a company, we've largely concluded that the political risk, much of the political risk, is out of the industry, and that it won't be radically changed over the years going forward. It will be so more legitimate and more regularized, and the contribution of the industry and a tax and regulate model will start to be felt by a lot of states, and in very positive ways. And the legal cannabis industry will, in our view, become a significant regular business that is integrated into our society, and that's something many of us who are involved in the industry had hoped it would happen or surprised it's happened as quickly as it has in recent years.
And do you at all see the industry consolidation on the horizon?
Yeah, I think we both do, and I think that that's something that bodes very well for Grow Life as we go forward. I mean, we have a footprint, as I said, in 5 different states right now. We're looking at additional states to move into, and as industry consolidation happens, we'd like to think we've planted flags in the states that have the best chance to have a good regulatory system in place. So as growth happens, we're there to capitalize on what growth there is.
Okay.
This is Sterling. May I just add something small to that?
Sure.
One of the things that we do see starting to happen, it will take a bit of time, but it's part of the way we look at Grow Life and our opportunity. And that is that in the near term, there will be some consolidation, and that consolidation will bring an opportunity for forward-looking companies to establish some national brands. And that's part of our set of core objectives. And it's an opportunity that comes to us from this public company platform that we have, and our dedication as a group of managers of that company.
Okay. And then how do you differentiate yourselves from other publicly traded companies in the cannabis space?
Well, I think Sterling touched on that earlier. The simplest way is you can say that we differentiate ourselves is that we're the only totally transparent and fully reporting company that's out there. The other way we can say is that we currently and proactively have diversified revenue. We have the core of hydroponics, but we're also delving into the financial markets. So we're finding new verticals to capitalize on, while a lot of other companies are really one-trick ponies.
Right.
So Alan, is that what you see? What do you see in the companies that you've been analyzing?
Yeah, that's a great time to cut into me, because I was just thinking,
I try.
Yeah, that's right. So just a little bit of background on that. I came into this industry, kind of stumbled into it in February, and kind of developed a reputation as being very negative. And it wasn't that I was negative on the opportunities out there. I was just negative on a lot of what was going on. And I think one of the reasons that I was attracted to Grow Life initially, and this goes back to August, was that it is very different from the rest of the space. I mean, first of all, these two gentlemen are, I think Rob, you are too a lawyer as well, right, by training?
That's correct, yes.
And so these guys are definitely trying to do it the right way, in my view. I mean, the industry's kind of filled with some very shady characters, to say the least. Again, not naming names, but that was one of the first things that struck me, and the fact that it was kind of a picks and shovels play. But what's really interesting, and Jen, I think you'll appreciate this, is we started off the show saying there's nobody's growing marijuana. Well, Grow Life has definitely embraced the big change out of the Department of Justice in late August that Sterling wrote about, and that kind of prompted me to do an interview with him that was written up in Seeking Alpha. And that is, and I'm hoping we're going to get to this in a minute. These guys are almost effectively growing marijuana. They're obviously not getting their hands in the soil, as Rob was starting to explain, and we can talk more about. They're basically providing such a level of service, and they have a deal where they're going to potentially receive part of the revenue from the growers. So it's about as close as you can get, and so I find that very interesting.
But let's be clear, we're definitely not growing marijuana.
Yeah, I was going to say, you probably want to...
It's a very very fine line that we like to call the green line that Grow Life will certainly not cross until, it would take a huge change in federal regulations for us to make that move as a publicly traded company. But we certainly support those that are, and we certainly no more so than the power company does, or some dispensary's attorney does, or Home Depot does. We'll do as far as we possibly can to stay within compliance.
Okay.
And I think that's like, Alan, I completely understand what you're saying, that Grow Life goes to that very edge, to that green line that Rob talked about. Unfortunately, where we stand is while we talk about how normalized our industry is, I mean, the fact of the matter is, there's a reason why you don't step over that line. And we haven't gotten to the point yet where businesses that directly touch marijuana can be in the position that you're in.
That's correct.
And I do want to further clarify, Georgia, that for us, GrowLife is only interested in working with legal cannabis growers. It's a huge distinction, and one that we can't yell from the rooftops loud enough. We are part of the legal cannabis market, and that's all.
And you're hoping that in the not too distant future, there's only a legal cannabis grow market out there, that everyone gets to grow cannabis legally.
We certainly hope so, but at the same time, each state is different, and some states have definitely curbed what you can do as far as being a caregiver, what you can do as far as being even with Washington and in Colorado. Right. So we have to look at the nuances of each state, which again helps that we've got Sterling as a regulatory attorney as our lead, and then we've got some other really good legal minds as well that are watching the laws very, very closely as they change to make sure that we stay within compliance.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, it seems some of our listeners are getting bored and they think this is all boring and not, of course, marijuana is expanding. And there's one gentleman who wants more to hear about things. So I actually went on and looked at some message boards. And I found some great questions, or at least some conversations that were talked about. And there was a certain gentleman, I believe that the handle was Officer K, and he brought up some questions. Would you mind if I went over some of these questions with you guys?
Of course not, please. Georgia.
Okay, great.
Of course, they're going to say yes until we ask them the question.
Okay. So the first one is your ticker, PHOT. If PHOT's storefront locations are the base for its gift program, and can you please tell me or tell the listeners what GIFT is? Because it's an acronym, isn't it?
GrowLife Infrastructure Finance Technology. It's a program in brief that allows us to aggregate a lot of customer requirements in support of expansion.
Okay.
And be able to provide all of those components and allow our customer to pay for them over time.
Okay. Great. So I'll repeat that then. If PHOT's storefront locations are the base for its gift program, how can the gift program be initiated in Washington as stated in the initial PR if there are no storefront or company personnel in Washington?
Rob, do you want to take the first part of that, and then I will just follow up with it?
Sure, and again, I'd like to applaud Officer K, as always, for coming up with strong questions. I've looked through some of his posts before on Investor Hub, and he seems to always have a pretty good handle on what's happening with our company, so good job. The simple answer to that is that we actually have, when we started the gift program, it was done with the expectation that we were going to start it in Colorado and expand out. We have no shortage of people right now that are already calling us and looking to take advantage of the gift program. A lot of these customers are existing customers. With Washington, we were just up there for the convention, which is the Medical Marijuana Business Journal convention, and met with a lot of the dispensary owners up there as well. Many of those owners have already heard about the gift program through our press releases and through word of mouth with other dispensary owners, and they're now reaching out to us. So it's quite honestly, we're not worried about the deal flow on gift right now. We're not worried about not having a presence in Washington as far as a storefront. What we're worried about is making sure that we have a consolidated core in areas like Colorado and in California that can service the gift program, and we don't want to bifurcate our ability to service people by having too many people in different places. So we'd rather build a strong core and work out from there than to try to put people all over the country and hope that they're able to open a store that's going to attract people to come in. It's just not the way it works. It's a small fraternity, and those people are coming to us right now. It's fantastic.
So right now, Washington isn't on your expansion list.
It's not on our expansion list, Georgia, until we finish the clusters of stores that we're doing in other areas. But it's certainly every place is on our hit list. It's just what are we doing in what order,
Sure.
And we can't do things that don't make sense in a time frame that we have. So it's a question of triage.
Sure.
Okay.
But it's probably useful, Georgia, to point out that does not keep us from selling in Washington.
Okay.
we have customers in Washington State on a regular basis, including some fairly large customers. But when you get to a certain kind of critical nexus with perhaps multiple, at the point we have multiple gift program customers in Washington, then it will make even more sense for us to either open or acquire a retail outlet in that state.
Sure.
And it will go both ways. In some places where we already have a strong retail store presence, it might be easier for us to attract gift candidates because they're already our customers. But they should work, the program should work very synergistically with retail stores where we have them or where we're likely to establish them over time.
And hey, I'd just like to say, Alan, if you want to jump in here anytime to ask for anything to expand on these questions, we know you've got a great analytical view on this.
Yeah.
So please jump in at any time.
Yeah, please
Sure,
jump
no
in.
problem.
I'm getting crucified on our website.
Well,
Real
some
quick
hard
though.
ones out there because they're ready. They're ready for the hard questions. And I think one of the ones that I hear a lot is, how are you? Well, first of all, when should we expect to hear about the first gift customer? And then maybe more important, how are you going to be financing this? You guys obviously don't have a money tree growing either. So people are curious about when we should expect to learn something, and then also how it will be financed.
And do you have a gift program out there already? A lot of people are asking about that.
What was the second part of that, please, Georgia?
Jen, actually, they're asking
Jen, sorry.
if
That's okay.
you provided anyone equipment through your gift program. Didn't you just?
Rob, let me take that quickly first, and maybe you can follow up if I leave some parts out. Please,
Sure.
Rob. We are actively negotiating a number of different gift programs right now. We expect that we will have one or more of them signed before the end of the year. We think it will be easier for analysts such as Alan to be able to look at not necessarily one, but when we have a group of them where we can look at some averages. I think it would be much more interesting to the market. Obviously, the first one will be interesting, but I think it will make a great deal more sense when investors start to see a series of these being put in place to help us regionally. And we're not, especially because most of these transactions are larger in scale than is typical for Grow Life in its retail stores. So instead of a customer coming in and buying $500 worth of equipment, it's typical for the gift program transactions that we're negotiating to be quite a bit larger. So it's the program itself, as we implement it, is likely to be fairly disruptive to our Grow Life's revenue forecast, and it changes a number of things for us, mostly for the positive, but we will be announcing them as they become definitive, when we can actually share details about specific programs to the market. And until that time, we're going to limit ourselves to describing the outlines of the program and its advantages. But we expect to have a lot more interesting news for the market before the end of the year with respect to GIFT specifically.
And what about the financing side, Sterling?
I'm sorry, Alan?
And how, obviously you're providing financing to your customers. How will you be funding it? It's not going to be on your balance sheet. Do you have an outside funding source?
Yeah. We spoke of that last time we did a fairly lengthy interview, and I had hoped that we would have more details to share with you by this time. we've been actively looking at some opportunities to help us to do the GIFT program on a much larger scale than one-off, two-off, like 3 transactions. It has the potential for us to increase the scale of what we're doing fairly significantly. So we've been looking very closely at opportunities to bring in sufficient capital that we can do this on a large scale, and we will have announcements also before year end with respect to our implementation of larger scale funding for that gift program.
And I can add to that as well, saying that we are, without a doubt, looking over multiple deals at this time and trying to figure out which ones are right moving forward. And again, until we're able to announce those, we can't do it. But there isn't for shortage of deal flow right now in the gift program.
Okay, and then the other big question I've been getting, obviously, you guys just kind of unveiled last week, I suppose, the kiosks for Grow Life Financial, and I think people are excited about that. Rob, you and I spoke about this a little bit. If you could just kind of say, tell us about what the opportunity is there and how you are approaching it and where you guys are in that market.
Sure. It was a great opportunity came our way because we saw a need in the market that wasn't being addressed. And that was right now, as most people are aware, banking is not available to most dispensaries, whereas in Colorado, even 2 years ago, it still was. It's dried up completely, which means that for all intents and purposes, the industry is a cash transaction industry only right now. With that in mind, we looked for something that said, okay, how do we make sure that from a regulatory standpoint and a compliance standpoint that we can have the dispensary owners act in a way that is going to alleviate all concerns from the government, being either federal or state, that all transactions are accounted for, and that puts the dispensary owner at ease knowing that all of his transactions are being accounted for. So we came up with a software piece that's already been embraced in other industries that have already had to go through regulatory, and we've come up with something that allows people to do their transactions in the waiting room of a dispensary, where then they act very similar to the way a pharmacist does when a doctor calls in a prescription. So rather than going into the back and dealing with what people used to call a bud tender, we now would prefer the word dispenser. You're able to do your transaction right in the waiting room. They call your name. You verify through either your driver's license or through biometric thumbprint that you are who you say you are after you've already been admitted to the facility. And then you just go in the back and pick up your recommendation or your medicine. So it helps the dispensary owner because it's a more efficient way to transact business. It helps the dispensary owner because it's a way that they can account for all cash. It's a safer way to account for all cash. It doesn't invite organized crime or any other crime that now sees cash as a target because these things are bolted and safely adhered to a wall. And it also allows for additional sources of revenue to the dispensary owner, whether it's advertising on the screen, whether it's being able to handle people's patient records from a HIPAA compliance standpoint. We looked at this as a way to solve multiple problems for the dispensary owner and at the same time handle compliance issues. And the group we're working with that we've brought this out with has developed it specifically with Grow Life with dispensary owners in mind.
Alan, I think you should continue on because clearly the people listening to this call want more questions that you're asking than me. How about third quarter projections? Somebody's screaming at me about that.
Well, I can field that one as well. And what we'll say is that, we've heard a lot of chatter about the third quarter projections and missing numbers, and everybody's right about that. We did. But we also had a record revenue quarter. We had the best quarter that Grow Life has ever had, and we're actually very proud of the quarter we did have. And I'll say that while we weren't hitting the numbers we want to, we were hoping that the integration was going to happen a bit more smoothly than it did. And I can take a lot of that blame. The numbers that we projected were based on the stores that I brought into the mix. And when we integrated in, we're on 4 different operating systems with 4 different POS systems between the stores that we already had. And integrations are never as easy as you expect. And I think I think that we did everything we could to make a smooth transition, and I believe that transition is looking very, very good right now. It just takes a little bit of time, and I think that we're on a really solid trajectory going into the fourth quarter. Sterling?
Very, very good summary, Rob. And we'd like to not make that mistake ever again. Rob and I are big believers, and you should learn from. We were a bit too optimistic with respect to our projection for the third quarter, and we will be more careful with our year-end projection and going forward. The integration activity did two things. It required a lot of attention from senior management that took us away from day-to-day sales over that quarter, and it also with the audit activity that we had going on in the same time frame, did not give us as much visibility into our month-to-month results in a solid way as is typical in our business, because we were undergoing so much change in this past quarter.
Right.
Real quick, I need to, we need to take a break and we need to get Alan back on here. But no matter what people say, I think it is fantastic that you guys come in here on a public forum and talk about this, especially with this timing. I don't think anyone else has, and I've certainly never heard of any of the other publicly traded companies anywhere near where people can ask them questions. So I just want to let you guys know I admire you. We'll take a break. And Sterling, Rob, just hold on. And the rest of our listeners, and we'll be right back.
Thanks, Jeff.
Cannapunch is a delicious and effective medical marijuana beverage proudly made right here in Colorado. Each bottle is freshly infused with 100% pure flower extract from the highest grade marijuana plants available today. Using proprietary extraction methods, every bottle of Cannapunch is consistently and reliably infused with an exact milligram dosage that you can count on to relieve your symptoms each and every time. Cannapunch is delicious. There's never any medicine-y taste. We use only 100% cannabis flowers. No trim or byproducts are ever used in Cannapunch. It does not require refrigeration and comes in convenient, resealable multi-dose bottles from 60 milligrams to 200 milligrams. We have drinks with dosage that works best for you. Cannapunch is available in a variety of delicious flavors like black cherry, watermelon, pineapple mango, and blue raspberry. And we now have strain-specific beverages available just for you. Cannapunch is delicious, convenient, consistent, and effective. Give it a try and experience the Cannapunch difference.
Call Cannabis at 1-800-420-5757.
Hey, you guys, you're on the air. You got to be quiet. You guys have to be quiet. You're on the air.
Your business and your investment. Since 2010, Cannabis has been serving the cannabis industry nationwide. Call Cannabis
Can you hear us? You're on the air. You got to be quiet.
420-5757 or visit us on the web at cannabis.com to learn more about our insurance and risk management services. Proud member of the NCIA.
I'm Gary Johnson, and you're listening to iCannabis Radio, and I want to say, talk it up, Colorado.
We just have one guy on here that is really, I'm going to get in the boxing match with him. Let me tell you.
And just for the people that Jen's talking to in the chat room, that's actually Jennifer, not Georgia.
His name's Muffy Face, and I want to muffy his face right now. Anyway.
Be nice, Jen. Be nice. Or these guys are all supporters of our company. So, for better or worse, we like to have them, and hopefully we can win them back over from their position right now.
Absolutely. But listen,
really quick from a station standpoint, I want to anyone who has questions and is calling in, we're not taking calls today. If you want to write something in the chat room, we're more than happy to try to get that information in, but we keep getting phone calls in, and we're not set up today to be taking live phone calls. So please put your questions in the chat room. Thank you.
All right.
Station announcement.
So, hey, Jen, do you mind if I expand just a little bit from where we went to break?
No, absolutely. Go ahead. Sorry I had to cut you guys off. I didn't want to Alan not to be a part of it. So.
No, that's great. I just wanted to let everyone know out there that, we definitely, as Sterling said, we've taken a great deal of hard work to actually get the company to where it is. And going forward, I think that we're looking at a really, really strong future with a really good core team. And people do need to remember that we did $1.3 million in revenue last quarter. More importantly, warts and all, we opened up the hood to let everyone take a look at it. And we are the only fully reporting publicly traded company in this space. So there's nothing that we're trying to hide here. We didn't hit the numbers that we wanted to hit, but we are moving forward, and we're doing it in a very transparent way. And I hope that people out there realize that there's a lot to be proud of there, and there's a lot to be proud of with this company going forward. So I'm not sure what else to say, but we're certainly not making excuses, but we're certainly telling people that we think we can do better, and we plan on doing better going into the fourth quarter.
I had another question, if it's all right.
Please, Alan, you can take over.
Well, I hear some of the other things I hear. You guys spent, and I know that Rob was on the show, talked at great length about cannabis.org, and that's a pretty new thing, and probably different listeners, so maybe worth talking about that again. But the question I get also is, I think you guys spent about $100,000 on that, and so not only can you tell us what it's about, but can you tell us kind of how you expect that to benefit Grow Life? It's obviously a nice investment you guys made.
Sure. I think Sterling and I will both tag team this one because, quite honestly, it's collectively both of our babies. Cannabis.org was something that, first of all, changed significantly from when we first tried to bring it to market. When we first were doing it, we were looking at having a portal that was going to be all things cannabis, and it wasn't really as unique as what we wanted. What we realized is that going into September, right before we were going to launch it, that we had major changes from the Justice Department, and as a result, we shifted our focus completely to come out with a different product. And the product that we're trying to come out with now is more similar to a WebMD, as far as having multiple ailments with information about state by state, ailment by ailment, from a political side, a scientific side, a legal side, and a physician side. And if we can get information to patients about what's going to best help them, there's no one else doing that. We don't want to be a Weed Maps. We don't want to be a Leafly. We don't want to be any of the other companies that found a niche. We're trying to find something that's very, very unique that challenges the federal government to realize that they need to tell the truth. Cannabis is medicine. And as far as how we're going to monetize it, we're already seeing a lot of new people going onto that site. Traffic is up, and we believe that we can continue to drive traffic. And as we do, then we expect to have some sort of advertising revenue attached to that. And we expect that it's actually going to be a very lucrative part of our business model going forward. But it is in its infancy, and we launched it in the first week of October. So we need to hire some new people to draft compelling content, and we need to put more effort into the development of it now from a content side than we did from the development side previously. And Sterling, I'm sure you can add to that.
It is an ongoing love of ours, and we've decided with Cannabis.org to focus very heavily on medical issues, and I think we've done a credible job initially. There's still a lot to do, and both in terms of collaborations and getting more talented people involved with growing that site on a daily basis. It's something that we're optimistic that week to week we will continue to be improving that site and delivering more of what is, I think, most important to our investors and the community at large. But it is it's going to continue like many parts of our business. It doesn't happen overnight. Our effort with respect to Grow Life Financial has been in the incubator for almost a year and a half. Things take time. At least they take time to do them well. And so we hope people will have patience as we continue to improve Cannabis.org and better position ourselves to monetize that through a number of collaborations, all of which are in process, or many of them are in process.
It's good to hear that you guys are trying to monetize. I know people want to see that, but I also think it's additive to what you guys are doing as far as trying to be an industry leader. So I from my vantage point, I commend you on that.
Thank you. That's certainly part of our objective.
Can I please? I have an investor that in Grow Life, and he asks, will you guys ever venture in the production and distribution of packaged marijuana products when it's federally legal? That is one of the investors.
Stunned silence.
Grow Life is Grow Life is opportunistically involved in legal cannabis. So the short answer to the investor's question is yes. We expect to be able to take advantage of opportunities in the legal cannabis world, all of the opportunities that are available to us. And we have not, since it's so early in this industry, it's a mistake for any company, to think they know exactly where the best places are for their business or the best places to make money in this space.
Right.
It's too early. So Grow Life has actually, in a concentrated way, decided to have initiatives in a lot of different areas, as close as we can get to the green line without crossing it, as Rob described earlier.
Okay, great.
And we do see a really good opportunity, Jen and Georgia, for national brands. It will happen, and we'd like to be part of that with all different kinds of products.
So, Alan, how many companies are you following?
Okay, well, first of all, I kind of cut off at 10 million is the market cap for what I'll talk about with my subscribers to 420 Investor, because I don't want to get into something that's already a pretty low number, quite frankly. So that's kind of my minimum, and the number right now is 18.
Wow.
And I think about, I'm not looking at my list, but I think 9 of them I would say stay way far away, don't even think about it. So it's really, it's a minefield, quite frankly. And of those 18, one company is actually listed. It's a UK company. It's not really, I mean, it is a cannabis company, but it's really more of a biotech company. Very interesting. It's called GW Pharma. But beyond that, it breaks down pretty rapidly, and Grow Life is one of only just a couple of companies that I think really, in that whole sector, that I think stand out. Then a few others slightly higher than the rest, and there's a lot at the bottom.
So, what do these companies? What do these companies do?
Well,
give me the range.
I'm about to have a live webinar in about a half hour. We're going to talk about a really funny anecdote, and I'll spoil it, I guess, for those that are listening to both. But,
thank you.
So what we're seeing. Okay, well, if you go back to August, I believe, FINRA, which is a self-regulatory organization, came out with a boilerplate warning. They do this all the time. This goes back to anthrax in 2001, where they feel like they need to protect the public, and they came out and, now it's marijuana. It used to be anthrax. It's always something where penny stock scammers are trying to take advantage of the public, and what they said was very true, and they gave some warnings about what to look out for. And so one of the things, it's kind of interesting, it's like flies on turds, basically. I hate to use the language on your radio, but they fly in, they see what's going on, and there was about 3 companies, maybe 4, that started up just recently. Actually, I'd make that bigger, that you're seeing companies say that they're in the marijuana business. One of them, I was trying to figure it out, and I found out that they've been advertising their stock on the radio in the Midwest. So you're listening to the radio, and they're like, you can invest in marijuana stocks. I mean, that was an obvious telltale sign that the company's not legitimate, if you ask me.
Sure.
That's just one example, but there's others too. You have one very famous company that's issuing stock to its founder at basically free, and it's a lot of stock, and he just sells it. So they're not in any real business. They say they're in a business, but the business is selling stock.
Got it. So there's a wide range of kind of what you're seeing, and but in terms of a concrete business, Grow Life is what you see as someone that produces a product and is a very legitimate working business.
I sure hope so. That's my vantage point. I'd be surprised if not. And I'd say even some of these other companies, some of them where it's a little questionable about some of the practices, I do think that they can be legitimate companies too. It's just, unfortunately, so Sterling and Rob describe themselves as SEC filers. A lot of these aren't SEC filers, or probably about a third are not SEC filers, which means that they don't have to disclose certain things. So as an investor, you're kind of in the trust me mode, and in penny stocks, that's not a very good place to be. I mean, penny stocks are very risky just to begin with,
Right.
and you go in that trust me mode, and you can get in a lot of trouble.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. So we need to talk about stock dilution. There's been a lot of questions about the stock getting diluted when somebody had said that store profits were down.
Sterling, do you want to handle that?
Is that a question? I'm not sure what the question is.
I can paraphrase it.
Go ahead, Alan.
They just want to know what's going on with the share count. It's been obviously it rose a lot after the acquisitions, but it went up again this quarter. That's probably the nature of the question. What's going on with the share count?
Well, we have our share count has increased. One of the principal ways that the company is able to fund expansion, and it's not unique to Grow Life. It's common to a lot of companies that are at an early enough stage or in industry that is not widely supported by financial institutions. One of the principal sources of additional either working capital to operate the business or growth capital to make, in our case, acquisitions, comes from what is described as dilution, which is using the currency of the company and its shares, presumably wisely, to have more opportunity for the company. We think most of our dilution has involved capital. To the extent we engage in dilution, it's to raise capital for our business plan and for our expansion. And there are a lot of investors that seem to be of the mind that they like the idea that we're at the leading edge and that we're growing, but they don't want us to issue any more shares. It's not a particularly realistic position on the part of investors that take that position. Our principal source of additional capital to be in the most exciting growth business that I've ever been involved in my life is to wisely use additional shares. And we've done that, and in all likelihood, we will continue to do that with as much prudence and wisdom as is possible. And we are vulnerable as we disclose all that information to people second-guessing it. But we certainly think we're doing the right thing, and we think this is the time to expand our company.
Okay. Let's move on to
that also, and just remind everyone out there that, remember, we're very aware of whatever dilution there is, and it affects Sterling and myself and everyone else as part of our team equally with all the people out there. When we make these decisions, we don't take them lightly, as it affects our positions as owners of the company, or excuse me, I shouldn't say owners, just shareholders of the company, like anyone else is. So we're along for the same ride that they are. So we are very, very careful about making those decisions going into any transaction. And I hope that people realize that these aren't easy decisions for us.
Okay, how about
that's a good point, Jen, and that's one of the things, I mentioned earlier, not every company is an SEC filer, and some of them you really don't know how much stock the insiders own and if they're selling it or not. And one of the things that I look for, I think earlier in the show, Rob and Sterling were talking about how people are really important to them. That's kind of how they form their relationship. They realize you have to look at the people part, and that's the way I look at a lot of these companies as well. And one of the ways you can judge people is if they put their money where their mouth is, and that's the case at Grow Life. And one of the ways, I think the question that was raised is a good one, and I was asking earlier about this gift program, how if I was trying to tie, will we get more dilution from that, or is there a way to do it without diluting? But I think investors in general, they see the share count going up, and they don't understand necessarily that it's an investment that's being made as well. I think Rob made that point very clearly.
All right. Well, let's go on to another question. We have, who do you consider your direct competition to Grow Life?
Well, I think that depends on whether you're talking about the publicly traded space or the private space.
Yeah,
In
she
the
didn't
private
specify.
space, there's, on the hydroponics store side, there's some fantastic companies out there that do a great job. I'd point to North Coast Hydroponics up in Humboldt County. I'd point to Santa Cruz Hydroponics and Gardening Unlimited in the Santa Cruz area. I'd look at Green Coast down in Los Angeles. HTG's got a great presence around the country. There's a few groups in Michigan, Way to Grow in Colorado. So there are some great groups, but none of them have the penetration nationally that we do, nor do they have the ability to finance the way we do as far as attracting new investors and new investment money for acquisitions and for new store openings. So we have a very different model. So when you talk about who's our biggest competition, it's kind of an apples to oranges situation when we're the only publicly traded company out there. It's just a different game. On the publicly traded side, it's hard to say because there's no one else has a model that really complements ours enough to say that they're competition. They're just another group that's in the publicly traded space that has an overlapping interest in the legal cannabis market.
Okay. Let's see.
Jen?
Yeah.
I just wanted to go back to that dilution because it kind of tied into another question I wanted to ask, and it's
Yeah,
not so much the dilution, but and Sterling, maybe you can address this. You know, one of the things that's just painful is to see kind of the financing process that results in the dilution, the convertible notes. And do you sense that this is getting better for you guys? I know y'all just had that recent announcement, but is this something that you expect will get a little bit easier in the future?
Well, it's a very good question, Ellen. It's something that we struggle with because over time, if I look at, I have been involved in Grow Life now for about 20 months, and our ability to, as an entity, to let me state this a little differently. And I'm sorry I'm being awkward, but it's a big question and it's a big answer, and I'll try and keep it a little bit shorter. As we've continued to grow and as we've made some of the acquisitions we've made, for the most part, we've had to work with what we could work with. So most of these transactions had to be as inventive as we could be to keep moving forward. As we've gotten stronger as a company, our opportunities have grown substantially. So we, as of several months ago, we actually can engage in reasonable conversations that are not just efforts to finance the next small step or the next medium-sized step, but to actually begin to get help with growth capital to move 4, 5, 6, 10 steps forward. And that's a major transition, and it's only happened because of the support of our shareholders and of the very powerful legislative changes that have happened on a national basis. So a number of good things have happened to us with respect to timing and the federal government position and our execution as a business that now give us the ability to do more than just very incremental financing approaches that look like drip, 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 as you were asking about, Alan.
Right. Okay. Well, that's
and so there will be. We expect, Rob and I expect out of Grow Life that there will be announcements to come, which suggest that we're moving down into a more sustainable approach of financing growth. But nothing is done until it's signed, but we're aware. I'm more aware probably than anyone of how important it is for us to go from deal by deal to a more comprehensive approach with financial partners that will help us achieve some of the very ambitious objectives of this company.
Okay. How about this one? How financially and logistically possible is it to open up 23 more storefronts in less than 13 months?
Go ahead.
I love that you asked that. Yeah, I love that you asked that, Jen, because that's one that I've actually seen pop up a couple times recently. I've had a few people ask me that. If you look back at the press release we made in July regarding the 30 stores, they'll notice that we didn't put a time frame attached to the 30. We put a time frame attached to 12, which was the end of 2014, which we were very much committed to, and we're still on track to do. Now, I will say that with the gift program coming online, that our focus on opening new stores has been supplemented by something that we think has a much larger revenue growth for the company, and not only will provide more top-line revenue, will provide better net as well. So while we remain committed to opening more stores for the reasons I mentioned earlier, the number 30 is one that I think people have got to go back and look at what the statement was to make sure that they're actually quoting the proper thing here. We are committed to opening a lot more stores, and we are certainly committed to having 30 nationwide over time, but it's not by the end of 2014. We definitely think that when people see what's available and some of the other things that we're pursuing, they'll understand the shift in focus.
And Rob, it's not just open; it could be acquire as well, right?
That's exactly right. In fact, we're looking at quite a few deals right now for opening stores. But again, I think that Sterling and I just went through an integration that, as we stated earlier, proved to be a bit more difficult than we wanted to. We want to make sure that the ERP system that we're developing right now, which is enterprise resource planning, is going to allow for us to have one single system that works for our accounting software, it works for inventory management, it works for shipping between stores, which we call intercompany transfers. We want something that's robust enough that's going to drive the entire company. And until that's 100% stable, I don't want to open new stores right now until we know for sure that we can do it in a way that's not going to be as tedious as it was this last time. We want to be able to do it seamlessly going forward, and to us, that's critical. So if it means we slow down in the near term while we're looking at deals, I'm very comfortable with that than trying to integrate something else in that is going to require an additional software system, an additional accounting system. It's not fair to our accounting team. It's not fair to the people that are doing the ordering. We have to be more efficient and more nimble in order to open at the pace we want to open at.
Hey, Jen, I'm going to have to hop off in a few minutes, but I wanted to ask one more question.
Please.
Which is, obviously you guys, and I really appreciate this communication. I think that Jen said it accurately. I don't know that, I've seen some communications, but they're usually scripted, not open like this, certainly not taking live questions from the public. Obviously you guys run into a lot of misunderstandings and have limited ability to talk to the public. What do you think is the most misunderstood aspect of your company? What would you say to that?
I'll go first, Sterling, and then I'll let you handle it. But on my side of it, it's that there's a perception out there in the outside world that don't have a chance to really look under our hood all the time to think that what we're doing is easy, and it's not. It's something that literally I work 15 hours a day. I know Sterling doesn't sleep nearly as much as he should. None of our team does. We've got a ton of people working around the clock to try to put all these things in place, whether it's gift, whether it's kiosks, whether it's store openings, whether it's reporting to the SEC, whether it's operating just day-to-day on the stores, making sure that we're handling inventory, making sure that all of our numbers are getting back in daily. It's a Herculean task, and I see things pop up on the message boards frequently. They're like, oh, how come they didn't do this, or how come they didn't do that? And the simple answer is, my goodness, we're doing everything we can. And I can promise everyone that's listening to this call, that's not going to stop. I mean, we're going to continue driving the way we can. But the misconception is that it's not easy to run this company.
No, it's not even easy answering these questions. So I can't even imagine. And for you guys to do this, I mean, maybe everyone's not getting the exact answer that they want to hear. But again, I think it's awesome. And instead of complaining, it's great when people actually list the question they want to get an answer to, and that's what people have been doing, which is great. So can I ask you, or Alan, do you got to go now?
No, I have a couple minutes.
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure I got that in because I will have to leave shortly. Got this live webinar talking about my service.
And did that answer your question, Alan?
Yeah.
How much?
Well, one other thing that I think comes up, I think a lot of people look at things like the Phototron, how's that selling, and they kind of miss the transition in your business and kind of where things are headed. And I think what will help that a lot is when you can give some more clarity on the gift program, for instance, or when you announce your first Grow Life financial client, and people can start to appreciate how your revenue sources are going to both broaden and become more recurring and easier to understand.
And Alan, it's not that we don't want to share all of that information because as we have it, there's nothing Rob and I would like more than to be able to talk to our investors about all the exciting things. We just have to do it all in its proper time, and we go through a process to really button all these things up, sometimes after a year and a half of planning. And but we as soon as we have enough information to share on some of these exciting things, we do, and we try very hard as a company not to overstate it, but to share some of the extraordinary excitement we have. And we are so delighted to have the opportunity to do this. Thank you, Georgia and Jen, for inviting us.
Thank you.
Can we please do this again in the next few months if we can get back on your schedule? It is, in many ways, it's very helpful, I think, to Rob and I and the rest of our team to be sufficiently disciplined that we're able to take and field a lot of hard questions about things that we're excited about and things that we haven't yet done as well as we would like. There's an incredible amount of opportunity for improvement in everything that we do, and we're about as aware of that as anyone. But we work at it constantly, and there really are very few markets that I've ever been associated with that are as excited as the one that we have all collectively devoted energy to having a place in.
Absolutely. And of course, you always, companies make projections, and that's what they are. They're projections. And sometimes you miss those projections and sometimes you don't. But to come into a public forum and explain those is wonderful. I mean, I think it's great. So, I just appreciate you guys doing that. And I actually have a couple more if you guys wanted to stay and listen. But Georgia,
yeah, really quick, Alan. Before you leave, we'd like to give you the opportunity to talk a little bit about you have a webinar coming up. We'd like you to be able to promote that a little bit and talk a little bit about how people can find you and get information.
Okay, I appreciate that. Well, first of all, I want to thank you guys also for doing what I'm trying to do, which is really to shine a light on this. I think it's a tremendous opportunity. It just kind of hit me the same time as it hit Sterling, kind of the significance of what was going on this summer. We didn't talk about the Gupta reversal and what an impact that has. But, obviously the DOJ kind of flashing the green light, hands off kind of thing, and it encouraged me to set up my service, which is 420investor.com, and it's I'm not going to get into all the details. People can check it out, but I can tell you this: we're up to 103 subscribers or so since we launched in mid-September, so in 2 months. And the real purpose is there's a lot of these companies out there are paying people to promote them. Nobody pays me to promote anything. I listen and make my own decisions, but it's not just me. We have a great community that we've built where everybody's kind of contributing their perspective as well. We're bringing in outsiders. We've had some webinars with outsiders, and I get a lot of contacts throughout the industry. I mean, obviously, I'm kind of new to this industry. I'm not a cannabis expert, but I am kind of a stock expert, I guess. I've been doing it a long time, trying to become an expert. So 420 Investor, and I do have a code for anybody that wants to check it out, it's radio, and you can get a 1-week access for just $4.20 if you use the code radio. And then I also, for people that don't care what I have to say, but they're interested in the topic, we are just now launching 420 Stock Chat. So I won't really have much to do with that, but people that just want to communicate with one another without being moderated and burdened by all sorts of rules, it's just kind of an open-ended, ongoing conversation. And Green Rush would be a code there if people want to check that out. 420 for the rest of the year. It's new, and I want people to get a chance to check it out. But my goal is really to help subscribers. A lot of people are like Jen, kind of new to stocks, interested. I'm really less about making them money than saving them from big mistakes. And a lot of people have made some really big mistakes, and I'm all about educating them and preventing that from happening.
Great, Alan. Thank you so much.
And,
Thanks so much,
thank
Alan.
You again. I'm going to jump, and I appreciate it. And it's nice to talk to you guys again, Sterling.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you very much.
Alan.
Alan, thanks so much. Really appreciate it.
Okay.
I know we've been on for quite a bit, Rob and Sterling, but did you have a couple of more? Can I ask you a couple more questions?
I'm game as long as Sterling is. No problems.
Please.
Okay, so are you guys sticking to your $5.4 million revenue projections?
Rob, let me take that.
Sure.
We expect to be updating the market with respect to that projection. I can't provide that update on this call, but we will do so through our official channels, and we expect to do so within the next week or two.
Okay. Rob, anything else to add there, or should I ask another question?
Next question. Yeah.
Okay. What steps will you take to attract customers away from growing competition?
I think there's a lot of things that we're working on right now, and the two things that we try to focus on the most are diversity of product, customer service, which would be customer service as well, and our price. And there is no shortage of competition out there. There's a lot of hydro stores that have entered the market. There's a lot of entered and left the market very quickly as well. And I think that to be successful, we have to have a very knowledgeable staff that understands the products. They have to be gardeners themselves, cultivators themselves, and they have to really understand what it is that they're selling. And with that, the larger the customer, the more the expectation is that you're going to service them at a price that, if you're just a standard mom-and-pop garden store, you're just not going to be able to stay in the game. I mean, Georgia and Jen, you both know from being in Colorado that the race to the bottom in a lot of markets is on, and for you to stay in the game, you must compete on price. And we've been able to do a very, very good job internally on negotiating better contracts with our suppliers than most of our competition has. So the way we can steal customers away or take customers away is to give them better service and give them better pricing models.
Okay. And how about international growth? Do you guys plan on that?
Well, we're looking at Canada right now.
Yes.
We definitely have sold it. You know, our problem right now with Canada is getting things through customs. It just takes more time.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to try to make sure we can ship to every place, in the United States within 48 hours. We can't guarantee that crossing an international border.
That's right.
But the second that we can actually negotiate that, either by opening a store in Vancouver or Montreal, I think we certainly will, if it meets with our model. But yeah, we'd love to be outside of the United States when the model permits.
And I would just add to that some of the new verticals that we are in the early stages of involving Grow Life in do present some opportunities to expand internationally. But it's not a large part of our business model at this point. It's we have plenty of market here in the United States, but we are looking at some possibilities as we move to other market verticals that are outside the U.S.
Okay. And this one's been asked quite a lot online. Why do you think you saw a decrease? Sorry,
We're looking at the chat room right
people
now.
People are adding so fast, I can't keep up. Please
Well,
ask.
that's good. That means we have a lot of listeners on your show tonight, Jen.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Although I'm a science girl. Anyway, please ask why they think they saw a decrease in same store sales when regulation had loosened.
Sure. I think Sterling partially answered that earlier by saying that for the first 2 or 3 months of the integration, which was the majority of this quarter, Sterling and I were spending the majority of our time not watching over day-to-day sales as closely as we would be previously, especially myself, and really trying to make sure that we were integrating properly to come out of this thing as a stronger entity. I will say that we're very comfortable with where we are right now, and that there's also a tremendous amount of competition out there. So for the most part, if you looked at store by store by store by store, I think that people would see a much different picture than what they're saying there. There was 1 or 2 stores that floundered that we have now rectified whatever problems we thought we were having. And I think that we're in a really good spot moving forward. But the changes in regulations aren't a direct correlation to sales. Being good salespeople and keeping your eye on day-to-day running of an operation is much more of a correlation to how your sales are going to be than what regulations do.
Okay. And how about one more? And I know I can answer this because I saw you guys at the second annual National Business Conference in Seattle. But have you already implemented a marketing plan to attract dispensaries and growers to the gift program and your new kiosk? If so, what are some of the details?
Well, sounds like another Officer K question.
I'm not telling. I'm not telling.
It's my question, actually, Rob. I wrote that.
Well, yeah, I'd like to, and I'm sure, Rob, you can add something.
Sure.
It's the gift program is a beautiful extension for Grow Life of our existing operations, because what we're in the main providing through that program is a product to our existing customers. This is not a whole new base of customers. Not everyone understands that most of our customers are already in a geography like Colorado. They are already vertically integrated dispensaries and grow operations. Those are our customers. Mm-hmm. And those are the same customers that are engaged in a process of needing to expand. So there's already a very, very natural synergy between our existing operations and the customer base for GIFT. As we go into other geographies, we have some new challenges in meeting the vertically integrated operations in those spaces. But it's been very interesting to Rob and I as that program has been out in the market, and we've met at shows like the recent NCIA show in Seattle. We're approached by tens, if not large numbers. It's not very difficult for us with such a unique, attractive program to attract customers. We're in a position, not only are we already dealing with as our existing customers in all of our operations, but we have enough of a profile in the industry that people tend to be seeking us out with unique programs like this one.
And I can take it a step further than that, and I can tell everyone that's listening that on Thursday, when every application is due in the Massachusetts market for people that are applying for Phase 2 of regulation as a dispensary owner in Massachusetts, you can bet come sleet, snow, rain that I'll be out in front of the Department of Public Health with Grow Life materials explaining how we can help them build out their cultivation site on a financing side. I mean, there's no doubt that anytime we see an opportunity for new states to come online, that they can be assured that I will be there, making sure that people are aware of what services we offer. So it might not be a traditional marketing program, but again, we're not a 5,000 person company. We're 60 guys that are doing our best to get our name out everywhere.
Yet. Well, I had a comment also that asks if you could have a little more communication with your investors.
The best way to do that, and it's really simple, is Kurt Divich, who I think a lot of our investors are familiar with, our investor relations side. Every single press release we put out on the bottom, his information is right there, and Kurt likes nothing more than to answer your questions. So if you have a question, please direct it to him, and he will always email us. If there's something that he can't answer directly, he'll make sure he seeks clarification. Kurt is a fantastic resource to anyone that's out there that's looking for more information.
His company, if I could just add a little bit, is Integrity Media, and that phone number is 702-396-1000. 702-396-1000.
Okay, then I have something important too. Hold on one second. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to... Okay, it's hard to be a customer if it's impossible to buy the product. How many Phototron units did you sell over the past 6 months, and when will they be back in stock?
There's some misinformation in the question. Phototron units have, periodically, as we've done campaigns, there may be one of the particular models that's out of stock, but Phototrons have not been out of stock on any significant basis over the last 6 months. So the premise is incorrect.
She is specifically talking about the $2,000 model.
The LED model. Yeah, the LED model has been out of stock, Sterling. And that's because we've had a problem with the supplier to get the LEDs in, and we're certainly trying to do what we can to get that model back in. But again, it's not as easy as people think to make sure that you always have what you're looking for from a supplier, and finding new suppliers, especially overseas, is again a task that proves to be a lot more difficult than I think most people that are listening to out there understand. That's an R&D process that can take a lot of time, and if you don't have the right supplier, the last thing you want to do is sell a product that you're not comfortable standing behind, and that's the reason the LED market has not been available for a while now.
Oh, well, that's good to know. Yeah, got to stand by what you sell.
But there are other Phototron models that are actually selling quite a bit larger numbers than the particular LED units that there is no stock issue with. But as to specific sales numbers, it's not been the practice of the company to give specific sales in any particular month or quarter for any of the particular lines. Over time, we may begin to do that, but we're not doing it to date.
Okay.
To provide that level of granularity with respect to exactly where the sales are.
Okay, and does Grow Life have a patent on the Phototron?
The Phototron is not a patented product. It has trademark protection, but the actual product has it's been out on the market long enough that even if there were patents originally, they would have lapsed over time. We're lucky enough to have a product that has had that good a legs in the market to actually be out there for 25 years.
Yeah, there's nothing else like it as far as longevity in the hydroponics market.
Okay. And then we went over the gift, and how has the interest in the kiosk, and have you sold any of those or using any of those currently? Didn't you just roll that out, though?
We didn't. We introduced it less than 2 weeks ago.
I was going to say.
Anyone else in the world saw it.
Right.
And the fact that the people on iHub and some of their message boards, the fact that their due diligence was as strong as it was to have actually picked up on it from a Fox News segment and immediately tracked down our trifold on it is nothing short of unbelievable as to the ability that these guys have to track down information about our company. So I was caught off guard. We didn't expect that we were going to release it to the market until a little bit later as far as, a full rollout announcement. And we were forced to speed it up as a result of the work that people did on their side. But the short answer to what you're asking is that it was tremendous. We've had a lot of interest. more importantly, it's one thing to have interest from the dispensary market. It's another thing to have interest from other software companies that want to integrate in with the product. And that was, for us, the most important part, and we had that interest right away. So I've got calls, and Sterling has calls to try to finish up those relationships so we can actually roll this thing out in a very swift fashion.
Fantastic.
Well, we're also engaged in the process of making sure that the regulators in some of these states are comfortable with that technology, and they understand how many of the government official concerns actually can be addressed through implementation of the Grow Life Financial kiosks. So there is an education process, but the sales process is actually just begun. So we will be keeping people excited over time with announcements as we make definitive progress with that technology.
And I would like, to definitely have you guys talk about this. And I know the answer, but I'll let you guys handle it. What is the difference between your kiosk and a med box?
I'll start on that one. First of all, the med box is meant for dispensing cannabis. Ours clearly is not. Ours is a conduit to make sure that you can process transactions. It's completely different. The only thing it might share as a similarity is that they both have the ability to take a biometric thumbprint scan to identify the user. Other than that, they couldn't be more different products. And the other major difference is that we're integrated into other softwares through POS systems that currently I'm not sure, and I don't know enough about MedBox to say one way or the other, but it's a different model in so much as we're trying to make a transaction easier and more efficient for the dispensary owner while staying in compliance with the state. We're not dispensing cannabis.
Yes, and actually, they actually commented on my nice question. Yay! Well, it actually wasn't my question. But that's actually why I had these guys come on, because for people that are outside the industry and don't understand what's going on, they see these pretty pictures and they hear things and they see these websites with grows and blah, blah, blah. But what they don't know is a lot of that is just pictures. And I know Rob. I just am getting to know Sterling, but I respect Rob and know that he would never get involved with anything that wasn't on the up and up. He's a workaholic, and I just want to see the legit stock companies really get the ears of people. And I'm really glad to have you guys on. And let's do this again. And for all you listening, why don't you, we'll put up a week or two before the next time we're going to have them come on, and you can email me your questions so I can get to them. I'm so sorry. I tried to get to them as fast as I could, but man, they were coming out. But I'd really like to address everybody. I don't want people to think that I didn't ask because I was afraid to ask. I'm not. I'm just trying to keep up from all of these, plus the ones that I printed out. So why don't we stop here? And Sterling and Rob, please let people know how to get information on Grow Life, how to get a hold of you guys, etc.
Sure. I think Sterling said it earlier with Investor Relations, Kurt Divich. His number again is 702-396-1000. They can also go to Grow Life Inc. as our website, Grow Life Hydroponics as the store website, cannabis.org as another site, grinders.com as our online superstore. They can always send information into Kurt, and Kurt can pass things on if he needs to with us. And again, speaking to the guys out there, I'll tell you, Merc Water, yes, I do read the boards, you're right. Greenhouse, Global Data, Bondi Baby, all you guys, I watch what you guys are writing as well. Officer K, I certainly read what you do, and I really hope we don't lose you as a person that's great with your due diligence and spreading information to the board. So a lot of the time, we watch what you're doing, and we hope that you're passing on good information to each other. So, thank you for all the time you guys invest in our company. It's very well noticed on our end.
In addition, if you have questions, we're happy to field those questions as well and send them directly to Rob and Sterling. And if you go to the contact page on the iCannabis Radio website that you're looking at right now and fill out the custom form submission, that comes directly to us, and we can bring that information back to you through a number of ways. It gives your email address and your phone number and those kinds of things, and we're happy to put you in touch with Rob and Sterling.
Also, anybody listening have any ideas for next time? Of course, this was the first time this happened, but I feel like I can do a better job. So please send those questions or ideas or whatever.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you, guys, for giving us a chance to talk about our company, Grow Life, DHOT, and thank you for giving us a chance to talk about our recently completed financial quarter where we had the highest sales and top-line revenue in the company's history. We love the opportunity to talk about the exciting things that we're involved in, and the next time you want to have us back, you'll probably get both of us. We'll try not to bring too many more people. But,
no, we like people.
No,
we'll be back.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The more people to answer.
The more the merrier, we always say. Thank you so much. We do want to do a little bit of self-promotion because, that's what we do. For those of you that are new to iCannabis Radio, while Jen has a fantastic show called In the Lab, which you're listening to right now, we have a myriad of other shows, including a show starting at 7 p.m. tonight, Mountain Time, with myself and Reverend Jeremy. We talk about cannabis and celebrities and cannabis and parenting and cannabis and news items. There's also on Wednesdays, CD Wednesdays with Adam Dunn. Adam Dunn from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. These are all Mountain Time. Thursday, The Hemp Connoisseur from 4 to 5 p.m. Friday, Reefer Madness with Citizen J and Mark from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. And, of course, In the Lab with Jennifer from 3 to 4 p.m. on Mondays. Be sure to tune in. All of our shows are archived. You can go to our website and listen to any of us.
And I want to personally invite Moofy Face in. I'm not joking. If he or she never said if they were in Colorado. They're from Brooklyn. Oh, bummer. I was inviting them into the studio so they could ask you guys some questions too. Maybe we'll get him on the phone next time. Moofy Face. He does seem pretty educated about all this, and and he wanted more. He wanted to gen up instead of gen things down. So anyway, but thanks a lot, Rob and Sterling. I really appreciate it, and we'll do this again very soon.
Thanks, you guys. I'm honored to be now the fourth time on your shows between Georgia and you, Jen. So. Really, thank you so much for putting this together and for having Sterling and I as guests. We really enjoyed it.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
And tune in next week for In the Lab with Jennifer from 3 to 4 on Monday. Thank you.
Bye-bye.